All right. So I have a quick fairy tale that I'd like to share with you all because we're here at Fairytale Town. And this is a Korean fairy tale, so I want you to listen to it and think about how it's similar and how it's different to fairy tales you might have grown up with, like Cinderella or Sleeping Beauty, okay? So once upon a time, in a village in Korea, there lived a woman named Anji. Anji and her husband lived in a little shack, and all they had was a cow, a donkey, and a goat. And so one day, Anji's husband says, "What does it matter if we have a goat or not? I want to eat it." And Anji thought this was a bad idea, but she loved her husband very much, and so she said, "Okay," and they ate the goat. Then a couple weeks later, the husband says, "What does it matter if we have a cow or not? I want to eat it." And again, Anji thought this was a bad idea, but again, she assented, and they ate the cow. And then a couple months later, Anji's husband said, "What does it matter if we have a goat or not, or a donkey or not? I want to eat it." And so Anji knew that this was a very bad idea, because without the donkey, how could they plow their field? They wouldn't have any way of getting any food. So she said, "I think that's a bad idea," but her husband didn't listen to her, and they ate the donkey anyway. And so now Anji was sad because she knew that there was no way for them to till their field and get food. So she decided to go to town and work for her uncle, doing mending clothes, watching kids, things like that. Well, after a week's work at her uncle's place, her uncle paid her with a bag of rice, and she brought the rice back to her husband's shack and left it on the porch and then went back to town. Now, the next morning, the husband woke up and he saw this sack of rice on his porch, and he was like, "How did this rice get here? I have no idea. I haven't made any sacrifices to the mountain spirits that they should have made this gift of me." But then he saw that there were footprints in the snow, and so he followed the footprints to the town, and he saw his wife working at her uncle's place, and he said, "Ah, my wife must have given me this rice." And so he went back and he ate it. Now, every week, the wife would bring back some rice, and Anji would leave it on the porch for her husband. And gradually, the husband just forgot about who was getting the rice for him. And so one day, Anji came home a little bit early, and she saw that her husband no longer thought of her, and she was sad. So she decided to take a walk through the woods to see if she could find solace in the beauty of nature. Well, while she was walking through the woods, she saw a little bird up in a tree, and it sang, but it sang in the tongue of men. It said, come along, follow me." And Anji was very surprised. It's very strange to see a bird speak in the tongue of men. And so she decided to follow the bird. It led her up deeper into the mountains, deep, higher, and finally she arrived at a great tree. And the bird had landed on the tree, and it said, dig down. And so she did. She dug down, and she found a ginger root. It was a beautiful ginger root. She took it out and set it aside, and as she was watching, in wonderment, it began to change. It grew 2 arms and 2 legs and became a beautiful little boy. And the little boy said, "Anji, I am the magical ginger boy, and you have worked so hard in your life that I'm here to make things easy for you. Stick with me, and you will have nothing but easy days, but you have to do what I say." So Anji had always wanted a little boy, and so she decided that she was going to adopt the little ginger boy as her own. And the ginger boy led her, first he turned into a fox, because he was a magical ginger boy, and then he led her deeper into the mountains to a cave, and said, "Anji, you must hide in this cave, because when the bear and the tiger get back, they mustn't hear you." And so Anji did as she said. She hid in some hay in the back of the cave, but when the tiger came back, he smelled her, and he said, "There's a human in here." And Anji came out and she said, "Please don't eat me, Mr. Tiger." But the tiger said, "I have a fondness for the taste of humans." and he started going towards her. But then the ginseng boy, still as a fox, hopped out and said, "No, wait. Don't eat this woman. She can do good work for us and keep our cave clean." And so the lion looked at the bear, and the bear thought it was all right. So they decided to keep Anji, and she worked very well for the bear and the tiger, and they paid her in meat and grain. So one day during her feast, she thought of her husband and how he must be suffering back in his shack. So she took some of the meat and the grain, and she brought them back to her husband and laid them on his porch, just as she had with the rice before. Now, the husband woke up, and he saw again that there was a gift of food on his porch. And again, he had forgotten where he was getting the rice from. So he wondered, did some spirit give it to him? He looked out into his front yard, and he saw the footprints in the snow. And he decided to follow them. He followed them up into the mountains, all the way to the cave of the tiger and the bear. And as he was getting close to the cave, the tiger saw him and leapt upon him and gobbled him all up. And Anji was sad that her husband had been gobbled up by a tiger, but she had the magical ginseng boy, and he consoled her and said, I will always make you happy. Let's move back to the shack, and you will no longer have to work. I will work for you." And then they lived happily ever after.
Yay!
That was pretty different from the usual fairy tales, huh? But that's it for my time. I'm going to turn it over to the third intern here at the Share Institute, and she has more exciting stuff to share with you.